Welcome to Edison TV. I'm Marvarine Cole, and today I'm joined by Edison analyst Mark Hodges. He's here to tell us more about PZ Cussons PLC. Mark, thanks very much for joining me.
No.
First of all, tell us a little bit more about what PZ Cussons does and also about its principal areas of operation.
Yeah, well, they make personal care and beauty products. We've got some quite famous brands like Imperial Leather and Charles Worthington, Saint-Tropez. And they're in Europe, Indonesia and Nigeria. It's quite an old business. I mean, it's 100 years old, still family controlled. And the family, the Zochonis family, were originally of Greek origins, but they've been in the UK 5 or 6 generations now.
Your note on the stock is negative, so why is that?
No, I mean, it's important to say that I like the company, and I respect what they've achieved, which is a lot. My view is that it's overvalued on an 18-month time frame. And the reasons I think it's overvalued is, if you look at the valuation compared to history, it looks very high on most measures of earnings and cash flow. And also, I think they've had, over the last 10 years, they've had a very good period. And just over the last year, and I think over the next 2 years, they're struggling more to grow. I think it's getting more competitive in Europe for them to take market share, which in the past they've done very successfully. You've had a state of emergency declared in Nigeria, which makes it far harder to grow the business. And in Indonesia, inflation's a big problem.
Is Nigeria's recently declared state of emergency affecting operations at all?
Well, the company showed a map at a recent presentation of the areas affected by the state of emergency, and it's quite significant. It's about a third of the country, mainly in the north, and it was something I was concerned about because the company's been talking about it for 2 years, but the state of emergency has only been declared quite recently. You know what the way economic activity progresses in Nigeria. There's a lot of nighttime markets and traditional retail. So if you've got curfews starting at 6, that must affect economic activity, and I think more than many people appreciate.
Is inflation a problem in Nigeria and Indonesia?
Yeah, I think inflation's a bigger problem in many emerging markets than people realise, and certainly I realised. I mean, I went to a recent presentation by PZ Cussons on Nigeria specifically, and inflation there is 12%. At the same time, that means to grow the business in real terms at all, you've got to be growing at more than 12%, which is challenging, I think. Then in Indonesia, wage rises have been a big problem. I mean, not just 5 or 10%, which is what we're used to in the West, but there have been government-mandated wage rises of 30+%. So that puts a company's margins under pressure. And it's not something, you can recover from it, but it takes some time.
What sort of long-term plans does PZ Cussons have?
I think it has some very exciting long-term plans. I mean, the demographic profiles of Indonesia and Nigeria are excellent over the long term. I mean, they're both oil-based economies, which should do very well with very young populations. And they have #1 positions in many of these markets. In Europe, they've got a fantastic collection of brands, which should take share over time. And because they're not a big company, they're quite small, I think they're better off in innovating and being nimble than some of their larger, better-known competitors. So I think they have a very good, future over 5-10 years. I'm just a little bit more concerned over the near term.
Great. Mark, thanks very much indeed for giving us the benefit of your research.
All right.